For my first video, I want to talk about JavaScript types, what they are, and why they're important. If you're new to programming, you might know nothing about types and not have any idea why they're important. And the official answer to why they're important is the interpreter or compiler needs to know what kind of data to expect from your script. That is probably pretty meaningless if you're new to programming or a beginner, and honestly it's a little bit meaningless to me. But if I could come up with an example to make you understand it, I would say, what would happen if you put a Blu-ray disc into your Super Nintendo entertainment system? It probably wouldn't work because your Super Nintendo is not expecting a disc and has no idea what to do with it. So in programming, if you pass your function or some method the wrong kind of type, it is not going to work. So with that brief introduction on why types are important, let's start looking at the primitive types and what they are. So let's just start by declaring variables using each type. And by starting with number, and to declare a variable in JavaScript, you can use var, let, or const, but let's just start with good old-fashioned var. And then you come up with a name. So let's say num example equals, so one equals sign, and let's just choose the number 8. There you have it. And now to verify that that is actually a number, we can use a console.log, and you can write type of num example. And there you go, it is a number. So if it says strings around it, it would not be a number. Next, we will do a string. Now there's actually 3 ways I could write a string that would all result in a string. You can use single quotes. So we'll say var single quotes equal imposter var double quotes equals imposter var I don't know how to spell it. I'm going to change it. We'll say var backticks equals backticks imposter. And now we can quick console log all 3 of these. And as you can see right here, it is a string. So let me just swap this out first. So I'm going to swap out the variable, and you can see we still have a string. And let's do backticks instead, and we should still have a string. Yep. So all 3 of those, they can be written with single quotes, double quotes, or backticks. And that is how you write a variable of the string type. Next, let's write booleans. We'll say var is true equal true. So once again, let's log it just to make sure I'm not telling a lie. And there it is. You can see that it is a boolean, and it will be the same thing as if I copy this, or I could just write it out. Let's say var is false equals false. Boolean. So there you go. There are the 2 values for Boolean. It can only be true or false. That's it. Those are your only options for a Boolean. And up next is undefined. This one should be very brief. So I guess undefined would be like a movie with a title that hasn't been written or filmed or anything yet. So if we just declare a value, or a variable, sorry. So once again, let's use var, and let's say no value, just like me. just like my videos. Just kidding. Okay. Var no value. So let's see what happens when actually I'm not 100% sure what is going to happen here. It should say undefined. Console.log type of no value. And yep, there it is. So that is undefined. So if you just declare a variable and you don't assign it any value, then it will log as undefined. So the last one we talked about was undefined. And this next one is kind of similar to that. But I would say with undefined, that's kind of an unintentional lack of value. But with null, that is an intentionally set lack of value. So let's say whoever wrote the server code wants you to let you know that there wasn't an error and that's not an accident that you're not getting any results back for a user search. They might send you back a value of null on purpose. So null has that use. Nothing is ever null by default. If something isn't given a value, it's going to be undefined. So let's say var value less equals null. And we need that. And we need that. And something's missing here. Oh, look at that. That's a typo. And here's your first bug in JavaScript. So I was researching this, and I would expect to see null here, but due to a bug in the original JavaScript, it actually says object, but it is not really an object. Let's get rid of this, and you'll see that the value is in fact null. Okay, for our next one is symbol, and I'm going to be honest, I've written quite a bit of JavaScript and I have never had to use a symbol. But let me read to you the description, and if you're new to JavaScript, this is probably not going to be that super valuable, but it's short here. So a symbol is a unique and immutable, I will cover that because that's important, primitive type that was introduced in ECMAScript 2015. Unlike other primitive types like numbers or strings, each symbol value is guaranteed to be unique. This uniqueness is its primary features and makes symbols useful for certain tasks. So let's just create a couple, and I'll show you a little bit what it means by guaranteed to be unique. So let's say var sim1 equals symbol, and then this is a little bit different here. We'll say description. Okay, and now let's actually duplicate this and use a different variable name. And we're going to get, surprised we're not getting an error in the console here. Okay, so you can see that those both have the same values, right? So one way that we can compare variables, and we'll get a log that says whether they match or not, is by using a triple equal sign. So let's console log sim1 equals sim2. And you can see it's false. And that's interesting because if we did this for regular strings, let's just try it. Let's say var string1 equal, oh, I have to actually make it a string. and copy this and make string 2 equal the same thing. Now, I think if we compare those, and again, if we want to compare the value and the type, so the value would be unique and the type would be string, then we use the triple equal sign. And there it is, it's true. So that's what it means by guaranteed to be unique. We'll cover that more in depth later at this point, but like I said, especially at the beginning stages, I kind of doubt that you are going to run into symbols. Okay, and this last one I'm going to breeze through a little bit. It's big int. So with regular numbers, you can safely write numbers that are 2 to the 53rd power minus 1 small. So you can write some pretty humongous numbers just by saying var huge num equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Just a number. Now with big ints, you can safely write ones that are even bigger than that. And you can do that either by just adding n to the end of a number. So let's say var even bigger equals 1, 2, 3, let's do a whole bunch of numbers and add an n to it. And I'm going to make sure that that worked. Console.log type of even bigger. And colo, how did that happen? I think my keyboard is logging. And if I scroll up, unexpected token, because I have 2 periods there, big int. There it is. So that's one way to write a big int. Or we could write var even huger. I don't think I've made that one yet. Equals big int. We'll call it big int method. And then we will pass it a string. And so then you can run normal arithmetic on this. You can add, subtract big ints from each other, but you can't you can't crossbreed them. You can't do arithmetic with regular ints and big ints. But I also wanted to show you something. Let me just make sure that this is the correct type. Yep, another big int. So for those last two, big int and symbol, like I was saying, I'd never seen them before, and I put it into my group chat, which has 2 guys, and they're both 10 plus year, veteran developers. Guys I can talk to, and then, yep, you can guess it, that's me. 1.5 years of experience. And I asked them, hey, have either of you guys ever used big int or symbols in all of your years of JavaScript? And here is their answer, no. So I would say what you really want to worry about, especially as a beginner, what you're going to use all the time is strings, numbers, Booleans, and then understand the difference between undefined and null. And if you get those down, you have a solid foundation to start writing JavaScript. So that is it for primitive types. In the next video, I think I'm going to talk about object types, and kind of goes hand in hand with mutability and immutability, and why understanding the difference between those is important. So I hope this video is informative for you, but I hope more that reviewing this and teaching this information helps me to remember this stuff and nail it in an interview someday. Please stay tuned. Thanks.